Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited to share my interview today with Julie Ryan. She has spent her career as a transactional attorney. She is focused on advising women-owned startups and small to mid-sized companies. And she specializes in strategic business transactions, including early stage financing, corporate structuring, commercial transactions, mergers and acquisitions, securities law, and general corporate advice. She has an amazing amount of experience and really can help her clients through each of those stages of their business. She's also passionate about teaching and mentoring young lawyers. So in addition to presenting workshops and teaching a variety of law school courses, she's also head of experiential learning at Acceleron, an innovative online experiential learning platform startup. We'll learn more about that, where she's developing practical continuing legal education courses for young attorneys, young lawyers, and executives. She's also an author of a textbook, which is exciting, called, you can guess it, Transactional Lawyering, an Experiential Approach to Communication and Problem Solving. And she practices now with Acceleron Law Group. She's a partner there, and they're based both here in California and also Washington, D.C. And it's a women-owned, minority-owned law firm. Welcome to the show today, Julie.
Thank you so much, Felina, for such a nice introduction. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So let's dive deeper into some of the things that we mentioned in your bio. But first, take us back. Where are you from? Where did you go to school? How did you decide to become a lawyer?
Yeah, I think decide is a strong word. I kind of fell into it, as people do. I grew up both in the U.S. and in England, and so came back to the U.S. for college and got a degree in communications and wasn't sure what I was going to do with that. I had a great mentor in college who pushed me to engage in debate and mock trial, and thought that I might become an academic. And instead I went to law school. And again, wasn't sure I was going to practice law. I just wanted to go and learn more to think critically and to read cases and to expand my knowledge. And sure enough, I ended up actually practicing law. Though I did, as you mentioned, I did drop out and into teaching for a while, which I love. But so I just kind of fell into law as something that I found that I was good at and interested me and challenged me in all the right ways.
Fantastic. Where did you go to law school?
Yeah, so then I went to law school at Georgetown Law here in Washington, D.C. It's where I began my career before moving to California, and now back to D.C. where I started my career.
And what took you to California?
My husband's work, actually. And so we went for a few years and ended up staying 15. So I transferred with the law firm that I was with at the time. I was with Akin Gump. They allowed me to transfer out there. In 15 years and 2 kids later, we realized it was time to come back. My kids are from California, and we're not anymore. But it's been a challenging experience, but.
Yeah, no, I can. Well, so I lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. Right after college, I lived on the west side in Brentwood and then Redondo Beach. And I go back to Los Angeles now, and I cringe, to be honest. I'm like, how does anybody live in the city anymore? It's just madness.
It is a lot, and we found that it was, and we didn't have family there, and so it made sense to come back. We're closer to family. My kids walk to school. And so they're definitely, right now in November, we are certainly missing the weather in California, Southern California.
Yeah.
But it's important. I've learned it's embrace. There are changes in life, and change is hard, and there's good and bad with every step you take in life. And what I've realized is that you just have to make the most of it and look for the positive and everything, and just really kind of take advantage of where you are at any given moment in time. And so we're really trying to stick to that. We're boating, we're hiking in the woods, we're watching the leaves change color. And so it keeps life interesting and exciting, and makes for a happier life, I think.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. The Southern California life is just, it's every day, it feels like the same thing. There is no change in seasons, and it's monotonous, but I do have to say.
It is a little bit of Groundhog Day.
Yes, exactly. Well, I want to spend a little time here talking about your passion for teaching. How did that come about, and then lead us into the work you're doing in the experiential learning space, this online platform?
Sure. So I've always been interested in education, and before college, before law school, I was already teaching English as a foreign language in Switzerland. I had always been a teaching assistant in college. I was a legal writing fellow in law school, so I'd always enjoyed teaching. I coached the mock trial team at my kids' middle school, and so the opportunity came up when I was working in LA to teach a legal writing class at USC, which I did and found extremely rewarding. A lot of work, to be sure. I had to read and comment on a lot of papers, but really kind of rewarding. And then after doing that for 2 years, USC offered me a full-time position on the faculty there, which I accepted. And I was there for 8 years teaching, and then I was still practicing. I wanted to stay fresh in practice, and that kind of, while I was teaching, and that kind of brings me to the second part of your question, what you were asking me to talk about, my focus on experiential learning, and what I'm doing now. And so I became interested while I was at USC with teaching lawyers how to be lawyers, as opposed to teaching them how to pass the bar exam, or how to, the theory of law is one thing, and it's important. And, you go to law school and you learn how to kind of engage in this type of critical thinking, and to read and interpret statutes and cases and things, and to be able to make your points. And that's all very good and well, but you arrive the first day on a job at a law firm or wherever, and you don't really know how to do anything. And, we have doctors that go to medical school. You would not have them graduate from medical school and operate on an appendix without practicing a few times, right?
Yes.
And so I felt like that was that aspect of kind of vocational training, or whatever you want to call it, in legal education is really missing, especially in transactional lawyering. So in litigation, law school is very litigation focused. All the shows on TV are litigation focused. I have never stepped inside a courtroom as a lawyer, and never will. And so there's more to the legal profession than just being a litigator. And so there was just, no one had taught me how to draft a contract, or what each provision meant, or how the provisions work together, or how to send an email to a client. Or how to explain a contract or a piece, a law to a client. And they don't teach you that, and there's nowhere to look for that. And so I started, I created a course that really helps students learn to practice, to learn by doing, which is this experiential focusing, right? You don't tell me, show me, or let me try it and then tell me what I'm doing right or wrong. And that's really the way to you get increased retention, and it just gives people a safe environment in which to practice skills that they can then apply to any given situation. And so that was really where I started, doing a lot of research in this and developing courses that focus on experiential learning, which is also how I ended up at Altaclaro. which is nothing but experiential learning.
Yeah, it's so important. I spent a little time when I had my prior company teaching as an adjunct, just a class or two a quarter, and there was so much talk about this. And this is now, I taught from 2003 to like 2010. So this was a while ago, and it was, I was teaching entrepreneurship and marketing, which is like the most practical subjects. And we were still, there was still case studies and theory. And it's like, no, strip this away and get people out doing it and interning and experiencing it. Especially in entrepreneurship, I'm like, studying to be an entrepreneur? No, you just have to get your hands dirty and get in there and do it. So it's interesting it's logical what you say, but I never really thought of it that way because I'm not an attorney and haven't gone through that education. The continuing education aspect of, keeping your licensing and things of that nature is a pretty big part of all of this. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so Altaclaro is a startup, and so and what Altaclaro does is it's a platform for online experiential learning for lawyers. So for either law students who are on the cusp of going out and working, junior lawyers, so first and second year associates coming out of law school, or even seasoned attorneys or in-house counsel who perhaps are changing career paths or going into a different area of law, or just want to know more about an area of law that's not their primary focus. And really, for people that, we started out to Claro with providing what we wished we'd had in law school and didn't have. So we're kind of playing catch up for people, the law firms who have, junior associates and these law firms have these junior associates, and they're not contributing value to the client because they're still learning, because they haven't learned those practical skills in law school. So how can we help really kind of get these junior associates to hit the ground running, to have these kind of just to be able to have good judgment and kind of a practical approach to an issue. So client comes with a problem, you can spout the law all you want, but how does that apply to your client's problem? And how can we use the law to find a solution for the client that makes sense for the client? And so really kind of thinking about it in that context. And so you get these lawyers who are, young lawyers, so in the firm, so they're seeing what's going on with these deals and coming in at that moment and giving them this chance to kind of, here, let's try drafting this type of contract, and let's give you feedback on what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, instead of having a partner just come in and cross through it and say, here, let me do it, right? Which is the training that you get on the job. No one has the time to kind of sit and go through and say, well, this is why we draft it like this, and this is why you might want to do it this way. And so it's been a great experience, and it was just, it's such an outlet for me to be able to create these courses that I love creating, and so it's really just, and to reach more than, I can teach maybe 16 students a semester in my course, and without the Claro I can reach an innumerable number of students or participants. So it's exciting. It's hard work, I won't lie. It's really hard creating these courses and creating the simulations in a way that that's pedagogically sound and interesting and translatable into an internet, an online format. But it's what keeps me on.
I want to ask, because I'm sorry to say it, but it almost sounds a bit ironic to talk about experiential learning in an online setting. Maybe not, but so how do you, so how do you make the online setting experiential?
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I feel like, so I teach both online and in the classroom, and I almost get greater participation online. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's, so what we do is the students go through, they're both asynchronous and synchronous components to the course. So the students get to go through the videos at their own pace. They get to complete the quizzes and make sure they've understood the materials. And there are interactive components built into the videos. They can click and open windows and flip over cards and all these types of techniques that, that have become, pedagogically useful for retention and keeping people engaged in what they're doing. And then as they go through kind of completing the simulations, the assignments, so we're learning about how to draft a non-disclosure agreement and defining confidential information and what's important to include and not to include. And then we say, okay, you have a go. And they draft it, and then they get to upload it. And so that's the experiential component. They're completing the work, but that's only half of it. So you still need the feedback. And so what we do is there's both written feedback, so they can submit and get written feedback on what they've done, or they can sign up for one of our live group sessions. And I'll have usually a group of, anywhere from 1 to 5 students, and we go through the assignment, and the students then feed off of each other, and it generates discussion. And one person will do something one way and one will do something another way. And one's not necessarily right or wrong, but what's interesting is why they chose to complete it in one way or the other. And so then that engenders a whole discussion about, well, why it matters, and ties into the materials that they viewed on the video. And so, it's like the Brady Bunch. You see it, we do video conferencing, and so you see everyone on the screen. And so we're all they can't be hiding behind their computers because their face is on their computer. And so it's pretty interactive. So it works well.
That's awesome.
And they're and they can be anywhere. So they don't have to, sorry, I'm late, I got stuck in traffic. They're just there. So
no excuses. Are you finding law firms investing in these programs for some of their junior associates?
Yes, actually, surprisingly, when we set out, we thought we knew what our market was, and surprisingly, most of our business now and our interest is coming from law firms that are really just kind of wanting to outsource this kind of practical, hands-on training for their associates because they're seeing positive results.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So last question on this, Julie, before we talk about acceleration law, is do you see some of the law firms, law schools who are missing the mark in this whole practical piece? Do you see them moving towards this or adopting this? Or are they just, here's what we're good at, we're going to get you to pass the bar, that's all we're focused on?
There are some law schools that are more embracing of experiential learning than others. I was lucky Georgetown is really increasing their experiential offerings and their practicums and things. So it's one of the law schools that I think is ahead of the curve. But the ABA is now requiring a certain number of credits be experiential. And so most law schools are going to have to end up complying, and most law schools are trying to address it either by trying to come up with these simulation classes or using externships. So just sending students out into the field, which is good and bad. They're getting real world experience, but less supervision. You're not quite sure what they're just getting coffee for someone, not really learning much. So yeah, there is definitely a trend towards. I don't think it's going to go away, and I think law schools are going to have to, and law students want these type of classes. My courses, when I teach them, are always oversubscribed, so there's a real demand from students for these types of classes, and so law schools are, many law schools are trying to, are recognizing this demand exists and trying to address it, but it takes, it's time consuming to come up with these courses, and so it's moving slowly in the right direction.
Fantastic. And I lied. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I also misspoke. The name of the business is Acceleron, not acceleration. Yeah. I was just, I was thinking you accelerate companies. And so I just made up a name for you there. Sorry about that.
No, that's exactly where the name comes from. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because I'm really fascinated with this online space and experiential learning. The world I live in, of course, is entrepreneurship. And
Right.
I've, as I mentioned, taught entrepreneurship and developed some online curriculum around that. We get a lot of folks at Hera Hub who show up and are, they've been in the corporate law segment, and they are done with it and they want to go out on their own. Does this particular program, or does, some of the things you teach, or do you see this a lot of, is somebody addressing helping those brand new entrepreneur attorneys on not only, the nuts and bolts, but also then how do I actually run a business and get clients and, wear the 17 hats I have to wear when I'm actually running my own business?
Right. The stuff they don't teach you in school, right? Or in the books.
Yeah.
The stuff that you just have to learn from finding the right mentor, I think, is what it comes down to, right? It's this concept of mentoring and letting people practice in a kind of a safe environment. So in a kind of, sandbox environment where they can play around with stuff. So yeah, I actually, I really do think that there's potential for this type of learning. And, even our courses at Acceleron, we have non-lawyers take them. So, for example, our course in negotiating letters of intent, there are plenty of business people that are interested in learning, the key things to look out for in a letter of intent or in a non-disclosure agreement, for example, especially entrepreneurs, right? Non-disclosure agreements are the staple documents that everyone should have. I know not everyone does. But then I think that's what's so great about Hera Hub as well. It just creates this environment where, whenever I have a question, there's always someone in the Hera Hub community that has the answer or has the right person to point me to that has the answer. Whether I need an accountant or whether I need, to understand how to, how to manage my website profile or, all these things, right? And so, anytime you're starting up a business, how do I, how am I supposed to structure my social media? How am I supposed to, optimize the searches? How am I supposed to, how should I set up my business? Should I have contracts with customers? How do I generate those customers? There's so many, there's no manual for that. And so I think these types of courses geared towards, entrepreneur 101, and people, a place where people are not ashamed to come and learn. And so, and then, the goal, the thing we do with Acceleron, and the same thing with entrepreneurs, is you get the people you have teaching are people who have gone through it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's getting these entrepreneurs that have gone through and have been successful and seen what works and what doesn't work, to help those that come after them. And this is, entrepreneurs and especially women, right? It's just because we're behind because we're playing catch up with where we should be in terms of owning businesses and succeeding in business, is just helping each other and developing these networks where you can go and get answers to questions and have someone give you a form, explain to you how to do something, or to look at what you've done and give you comments and feedback on it. I think absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll have to dig into that further. I'm sure somebody is tackling that market, but I haven't run across anything as we look to support some of these new entrepreneurs in our community. So I want to make sure we have a couple minutes here to talk about also Acceleron Law Group. Again, you're a partner there. I mentioned a few of the focus areas in your intro, but just take a few minutes. Tell us a little more about the types of clients you're working with and what you're doing for them.
Yeah, so it is Acceleron Law Group, and so we are a small firm. So I came from big law. I went through the traditional channels after law school. I, went to a big law firm, cut my teeth on big deals. Went into teaching for a while, and joined Acceleron Law Group when I stopped teaching full time, and it 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 was a decision that I made that I didn't want to go back and be in a big firm. I didn't want to be an employee. I realized I had doubted myself and realized that, wow, I do know things. I am somewhat of an expert in my field. I've been practicing law for almost 20 years at the time. Now it's more than 20 years. And I do have something to offer, and I want to start choosing my clients, and building my own clients and doing the type of work that I enjoy doing. And Acceleron was the place for that. We all, we're a firm, but we all have our own kind of operating centers. So we all work from wherever we want to work from. We have cloud-based file storage. There's no, the horror of working at a big law firm is minimum billable requirements and minimum business. There's none of that.
Yeah.
It's up to everyone, however much they want to work, whichever clients they want to choose. So it's been really great for me. It's been empowering, a little nerve-wracking, because here I am kind of essentially going out on my own, right? If I don't work, I don't get paid. What if I can't collect? What if I don't do a good job? All these self-doubts that come in when you're kind of going out on your own. But I will never go back. This has been great. It's allowed me to keep teaching and to be a part of Acceleron. And at the same time, it's allowed me to develop almost, again, by accident, such a wonderful client base of predominantly women entrepreneurs and business owners that just wanted a lawyer that would listen to them, work with them, be collaborative, be practical. So, I've worked on, billion-dollar deals and mergers and acquisitions, and to be able to take a client that is, making a $10,000 investment, and what type of, how do you tailor the legal advice such that it makes sense, that it's efficient, that it's affordable, and that it helps the client grow, and you grow and you build with the client. And so really working with these, startups, emerging growth, young companies and entrepreneurs and individuals that are just starting out, and just kind of helping them navigate the legal issues that are involved, and just offering them support and watching them grow has just, to me, it's like, why didn't I do this earlier? And so having found this at this point, it really was an episphany to me. I was like, oh no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the type of law that I'm doing. I can use my expertise. So, I have a business law background, so I can draft and negotiate contracts. I can, if someone needs to raise money, I know the securities laws. I can structure, I'm working on a sale of a business. I've got a company that got an offer that they couldn't refuse. And so I can do all of that, but I do it all on a personal level. So I'm not working with a board of directors of a big company. I'm working with the person who started the business in their garage, or, took out a second mortgage on their home to bootstrap the business as they got started. And so I'm very mindful of that. So I could be earning a lot more at a big law firm, but I would be selling my soul. And here I get to have the best of both worlds. So it's a great law firm and we all have the same mentality, and we're all supportive of each other, and we all help each other out. And it's everything you would not expect in a law firm.
Yeah, I talk to so many female attorneys that come into Hera Hub, and the stories are just carbon copies of each other. It's, oh my gosh, I was at this big law firm, and it was, I think I had read somewhere like the job satisfaction rating of female attorneys in large firms is like 10% or so. I mean, it's
Right.
horrible. Just the culture and all the things that you talked about. So, that's why I think we do see more and more, both men and women, but women in particular, going out on their own and really being able to do the work they want to do on the
Right.
terms that they want to do it on. So exciting. Well, Julie, what is on the horizon for your business?
Yeah. So right now, I finally had an epiphany just last week, that it's, as you rattled off all the areas that I practice in and that I'm knowledgeable in, and I finally realized that I really need to, at this point, in my career, I really need to start focusing on what I do best and what I do well. And so I really want to, up until this point, although my emphasis has been on small businesses and contract negotiations and structuring businesses and early stage financing and these types of things, I've also done, continued to work on larger deals when they've come in and to be a part of that kind of sexier side to law. And my epiphany was, no, I don't need to be doing that anymore. My focus is going to be very narrow. It's going to be, startups and small businesses, and really kind of helping them succeed, whether it's, incorporating them, setting them up, structuring, employment agreements with their employees, equity incentives, their first financing, all the way through until they either get acquired or become too big, which is great, right? If that happens. And so really kind of narrowing my focus and saying no when I'm too busy to take on more work. That's one of my missions, is to make sure that I maintain that life-work balance and that I'm there for my kids while they still want me to be there. Because, my oldest is 16, so I have a couple of years left with him. And so, now more than even when they were younger, I have that sense of, the importance of being there and not having work, take me away from time with family, every now, of course we're all busy and work is work, but really kind of striking that balance and building a business with clients that understand that and also want a life-work balance. And so, just having that collaborative work relationship that allows everyone to just, I think, be successful. Define success as you will, right? It's broader than just money or succeeding in a business. It's making the most out of the life that you've made for yourself.
Absolutely.
That's very
fantastic.
Philosophical there.
Yes, no, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I know our listeners can relate. I mean, so many of, our members and our listeners are they're in that same exact boat and making those decisions. Sometimes, we get pulled in so many directions, and sometimes it's hard to say no. We want to please everybody, right? But we have to draw clear boundaries. And I love the fact that you're like, nope, this is what I'm doing. I'm honing in on this, and I'm going to say no to other things, even though, the money might be hard to turn down. But yeah, you're never going to get those last 2 years back with your 16-year-old. Right. And so, so critically important. Well, thank you for sharing that, Julie. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, learn more about your business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so my contact info is on our website, which is acceleronlaw.com, which is ACCELERONLAW. And all my contact information is right there.
Perfect. Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Julie. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.